This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good looking friends. About a month ago, I put this up in my community space, in which it announces this year's winner of the NAACP/Archewell Digital Justice whatever awards. In any case, this woman, Joy Bolowini, won this year's $100,000 grand prize. It just so happens that Dr. Joy Bolowini is so focused on equity and artificial intelligence, AI. What we're starting to see now is more focus from Archewell in this space. And this is just an indicator, as well as what they announced with the coalition and getting involved with the US elections again. You'll be surprised, or maybe you won't be surprised, that this couple's at it again. So, all this noise that we're seeing about Nigeria and will Meghan or won't Meghan go to the UK, as well as all those stupid jars of jam, truly is a deflection away from what they are not telling us they are doing from behind the scenes, as far as working in this space and trying to not only manipulate the youth, which I've said that this is what Archewell has been doing this whole entire time, in trying to manipulate and control in order to gain this control over the internet. So we all know that they have been exposed for their participation in this censorship industrial complex. In fact, a lot of people have been exposed in this censorship industrial complex. And I've said that the focus has now shifted to focusing on keeping our kids safe. They're using the guise of children's safety in order to continue on with this censorship nonsense. In case you missed it, last week, Archewell and other partners of the Responsible Technology Youth Power Fund, with the youth leaders that they have brainwashed and suckered into joining, gathered together in New York to collaborate and connect at this fund's inaugural in person convening. The day that they held this with James Holt opened with a discussion on the current state of responsible technology and the movement to drive positive change, which means brainwashing them into activating and taking action. All these youth leaders that they have in the room, I believe, received these grants that were given out last year, and a lot of them that we were focused on had been pushing policy in Washington. It's important to understand that Harry and Meghan's focus now has shifted to AI, which AI right now is a top focus for the US elections. So, what do you know? The topic of discussion here in this session is surrounding ethical AI. What do you know? Meghan and Harry sent James Holt, who is the executive director of Archewell Foundation, to speak with Nabia Saeed, who is the CEO of the Markup. Remember, she was the one that won last year's NAACP Archewell Digital Civil Rights Award, to discuss work around ethical AI and online systems. Here's what Archewell had to say about this. With optimism for the future, the group joined in discussion about the tangible steps being taken by youth leaders and organizations to create a meaningful and thoughtfully designed technological landscape. The projects that they're working on include innovative solutions to issues that affect us all, including improving education access, the responsible use of artificial intelligence, and promoting the safety and well being of online communities. Don't be fooled by this socialist, communist, Marxist, flowery language that Megan always uses. When you break it down, this is a common script that all of them seem to have in their playbook. Same script, but this is the message that they're really trying to get to at the end of the day. So, when you see improving education access, this is not about giving carte blanche to allow people to go off and discover for themselves. This is about controlling the information flow. If you remember, or if you don't know, Archewell attached itself to a lawsuit that's currently going on right now between NetChoice and the state of California, or the Attorney General of California, for passing this law that does give the government control over what data your kids are sharing online, as well as the information that gets pushed towards them. Now, we have NetChoice, who is pushing back and saying, no, this is a form of censorship in which they don't want to be held accountable for information that should not have been accessed by, let's say, a child or a youth, depending on what the age range is. But Archewell has attached itself in support of the state of California in order to make sure that these laws are getting passed now, not at the federal level, but they are seeking to do this at the state level where they could have a lot more success. And this is kind of where we're all going now. The Missouri versus Biden lawsuit has put the federal government on blast. So now they're seeking different ways in order to get this regulation passed. I know that this was a long video that I did, but if you haven't watched it and want to understand a bit more as to how Harry and Meghan are involved with this censorship and trying to take down America's First Amendment rights, I strongly suggest you watch this primer because it does talk about what is going on with Australia and its issue that it has with Elon Musk and X. In this video at 6:51, the Global Online Safety Regulators Network is talked about pertaining to the super sugar Julie Inman Grant, who is an American in Australia who absolutely hates the First Amendment. Well, this network that has been set up with other countries to put pressure on censoring and regulating the internet and free speech does go into including other members that are part of this regulators network, which includes these observers that are in this network that are comprised of organizations and stakeholders that work on supposedly online safety issues, which include people from civil society, policymakers, multilateral organizations, and industry groups. I'm all for child safety, but I don't think that the government should be dictating on how information is consumed by your child. I think that as a parent, that's your responsibility. But when you look at this list of observers that they have here, Five Rights is listed at number one. I would like to believe that these people are truly trying to protect kids, but when you see them pair themselves and align with people like Meghan and Harry, all of that goes out the window and it can't be trusted. You have a couple here who are open about trying to control the internet, as well as they are the biggest bullies online, spreading not only mis and disinformation, but also malinformation to cause harm and civil unrest. We've seen this with the Sussex Squad and what they do. Now, when you look at this next gen Nazi youth camp that they've set up under the guise of the Youth Power Fund, the 26 youth and intergenerationally led responsible technology organizations, programs, and teams that were given money include, oh, look at that, Five Rights Foundation. You know who else received possibly taxpayer funded money passed through an organization like Archewell? The Institute for Strategic Dialogue. You know, the organization that Jory Craig, the consultant that gets six figures from Archewell as a consultant for Meghan and Harry. These are the people that are trying to censor and to control the internet. Quite frankly, anyone that aligns with Meghan and Harry and supports their false narratives of mis and disinformation as well as malinformation to incite not only discourse online as well as incite hatred against for political purposes has no business in involving themselves with not only the youth but also children and the information that they see. I'm sorry, you cannot back that. And this is why I call this out, because they recognize they have been exposed at the federal level. So what are they doing? They're grassrooting it and going towards putting out these reports showing harm and going after the kids and pretending it's about the kids. But when you are backing and don't say anything about the lies and the disruption that Meghan and Harry have injected here, you have to question the motives of these organizations. And when you see Five Rights, and Five Rights is connected to this network, a network in which now is attacking Elon Musk and trying to go after him legally for allowing free speech online. It just goes to show that these people are up to no good. So now, when you get back to this statement and you look at the next piece where it says the responsible use of artificial intelligence, this Responsible Youth Fund has projects that focus on making sure that people learn the so called right way in how to use artificial intelligence. So, in essence, inoculating people Just like what this coalition that Meghan and Harry are part of for the election, this is all about inoculating what you're seeing around information, also around algorithms. We all know that Meghan is fixated on these algorithms. And I think why it's so appealing to Meghan is because what we are witnessing is AI essentially revising history. If you look at the recent events with Google and AI and it being exposed that it is pushing the ideology of diversity, equity, inclusion, and completely erasing America's white history. And these socialists who have power and are pushing these ideologies all want to destroy capitalism. Not capitalism for themselves, but capitalism for the rest of us to keep us oppressed and to keep the control. You notice how Megan talks a lot about equity and women empowerment, but she doesn't practice this in her own company, or at least at Archewell Fugazi Public Charity. She's hired all white Caucasian males and are paying them a lot more than what she's paying the one female that's on the team. Megan has a totalitarian dictator mindset. It's a rules for thee, but not for me. And we know this. And finally, the last piece of the statement and promoting the safety and well being of online communities. I'm sorry, you can't take that seriously when it's coming from one of the biggest online bullies out there, Meghan Markle. This has absolutely nothing to do with safety and the well being of online communities. This is all about pushing laws and regulations in order to control the information as well as curb speech. Is anybody going to believe Megan is supporting this when she herself has been behind and supporting people that openly threaten, dox, intimidate others online? Let alone doing it to her own family as well as the royal family, putting their physical safety in jeopardy. It's so important that we bring awareness to this as to what Meghan and Harry are doing in the background while they distract us with all this bullshit. I think the thing that's truly concerning here is the partnerships that Meghan and Harry have with the tech companies because they literally have bent over backwards to help her control the lies, well, in fact, promote the lies as well as suppress the actual truth. To me, I find that deeply concerning because you shouldn't be able to have that much power to revise history to her own liking. And to me, she has, to a certain extent, done that with the Queen's legacy by putting her stain on it and people believing it as truth. I want to show you how much control this woman had back in the day when she was a so called working royal. So I went ahead and did a search for Meghan Markle and then bullying. And I did it for a time frame between January 2016 all the way up to December 2021. So when you Google it for the most part, you see all the traditional publications that Megan uses to push her propaganda. But when you look at some of the titles or you just read the short descriptions, you get the feeling that the palace rescinded the bullying allegations and that Megan gave her justification and then she had friends backing her and defending her to make it look like Megan was the real victim here in this situation. You can do this exercise with various topics, and what you will see is how much media Megan has put out to squash all the truth that had been put out about her. As you can see here in the United States, there's no Daily Mail articles or Sun articles popping up. It's all like People, Los Angeles Times, Harper Bazaar. I mean, this is what Google is preferring to show us versus the other stuff that was published about her. And this shows how much control she had back then. It also explains why the people in the United States still think Meghan Markle is the best thing to happen to the monarchy, especially when all you're seeing are the preferred publications that Meghan has put out, or the preferred publications that Google is willing to prioritize above the actual truth. Notice there's no Sun articles, there's no Mail Online articles. Now we know that they pump these stories out by the minute. But here you can see all of the paid propaganda keeping the narrative and holding the narrative. So even if you wanted to go back in time to look at it, you'd have to be very specific. Now, YouTube also does this shit in which they prioritize all different leftist publication and media above our channels and other topics as well. This is the problem when you have this big monopoly and hold on the internet. And when power gets into the hands of someone like Meghan Markle to be able to control the narrative, you can see how dangerous this is. And that's why these people have to be stopped. It's not just Meghan Markle who's guilty of weaponizing the media. It's other celebrities as well as these corrupted politicians. I mean, she didn't just think of this all by herself. Now, before I go, I want to pose this question. Why do you think that this event was not widely promoted or broadcasted or even reported on by the traditional Sussex propaganda machine? Do you think it's because people were more interested in this jam and whether or not Meghan was going to go to the UK for Invictus? Or do you think that they didn't want the spotlight in this area because it is controversial and they don't want any disruption surrounding the progress that they are making, not only with brainwashing these youth, but also in the efforts around censorship and going around it now because it has been exposed? Or do you think because Megan's not featured in it that she didn't care to promote it or highlight it because Archewell is a Fugazi public charity? I don't know. I'd be interested to know what you guys think, but definitely leave your thoughts. And as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
It was such a fraud.